It's whatever setting you made for your own profile that
Yeah,
needs
but
to be
I
what
mean,
feels fun.
I never. Okay, thank you. Okay.
It's whatever setting you made for your own profile that
Yeah,
needs
but
to be.
I mean, hello, everybody. Okay, thank you. So this is beginning officially this morning the Eurosymposium 2024 online and in real life. This morning will be a kind of a practical workshop organized by Anton, by Livia, and normally by Anton Kulaga, Livia, and Newton Winter, that's not his real name, concerning health sharing of health data, research for longevity and artificial intelligence. And so this morning during about 2 hours, it will be kind of a practical workshop with two parts, general information about AI managed by Anton and by Livia. And then we will make a few, let's say, a few things really with our computers. So Anton, Anton and Livia, the floor is yours. And for the people online, if there is some technical problem, please tell it directly in the chat, because of course we don't know how it is working in the Zoom. So please, normally it should be without any problems, but tell us about this. Last thing, only for the people online, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can write it in the chat. Okay, that's it for the moment. Anton, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me share my presentation. These things close a bit. Just a sec.
Sound on your side.
Probably someone else who's not on mute. Everyone on mute?
No, yeah.
Okay. Please, people who are making it loud, can you switch off so we will have no echo?
Normally,
And the microphone is on?
Okay, so let's start. Today we will be making a practical workshop on using AI, in particular large language models for aging research use cases. And what we will, so first a few words about myself. So I am right now affiliated with Rostock University of Medicine, Germany, where I am actually developing applications using large language models for evaluation for different longevity interventions. Before that, I work in systems biology of aging group, where I did a lot of bioinformatics, mostly RNA-seq, but also genomics, cross-species transcriptomics, and some explainable machine learning. I am also involved in some biotech companies. And actually, most of the time that I spend now is on open source projects development. So I started in this field as an activist, and I switched to bioinformatics. And right now I am lead developer of Just DNA-seq personalized genomics platform, and of Longevity Genie, which is an assistant for biological and aging research. And a few words about the workshop. What we will be doing today. So in the beginning, I will give you some theory. So I will review how machine learning is used in aging. So most of the current major use case actually is aging clocks. Then I will look into current trends in AI, especially generative AI, and how they are coming to biology. And then I will show how LLMs and transformers are used in biology, and I will share updates on the Longevity Genie project. Then after it, we will actually finally go to practice. So you will try yourself how to make an AI agent, how to teach it to interact with an aging research database. And then you will learn how agents can work in a team, and also how in the future you will be able to do fine-tuning. The practical part will be made with Google Colabs. So people who are online, they will also be able to participate, and it will be done by Livia Zaharia. Yeah, here she is. So getting back to theory. So first, how can I actually hide this annoying Zoom?
Yeah, we know how to make this small.
Yeah. Yeah. So first is how AI models are applied in aging. And currently the major use case is aging clocks, and they are mostly trained on functional and physiological biomarkers. So we look at for physiological is like our genomics, transcriptomics, our blood, different physiological measurements. But what we are also interested in is obviously quality of our life. It means whether we have diseases and whether we fit, how our health is. And in the past, by the way, I authored one of the review papers on it. And yeah, so here are functional biomarkers, some examples like speed of processing, working memory, then also some physical performance. And now we look into also important things for measuring aging clocks, is that you have to know like what are the errors of these aging clocks. Typically it's mean absolute error and coefficient of determination. And yeah, so coming back to physiological markers, so the ones that is something that everybody of you can easily try is blood biomarkers, because everybody of you probably had their blood. And so this is a picture from my review, but lately there has been interesting trends in this regard. So modern blood aging clocks, here is one of the explainable blood aging clocks papers. So you see that they trained not only to predict your age, but they try to associate it with different factors and different risks and different organs. And here you can see like like on the right top picture, picture B, you can see that like how different aspects push your biological age to the right or blue ones to the left. And this is actually a current trend that we are seeing now. Also, we have other markers that all of you can measure. It is like with photos or with videos is facial aging clocks. There are also markers with video that you can also even check your heart rate variability. Obviously, there are some other visual biomarkers. And coming back to the most popular ones, obviously, is our omics, and methylation is the most popular, but other biomarkers appear. And we also see, so here I will be mostly focusing on trends, because in this conference there will be talks about different specific clocks. And the trend also you see that with transcriptomic, like right down is trying to explain how different gene expressions push your biological age to like older than chronological or vice versa. And with transcriptomics clocks, when you know what genes do, it's a bit easier, but they're very inaccurate. And the most popular is methylation clocks. I actually tried it on myself. I'm happy that I'm 3 years younger than I should. The problem with this clock is that like there are huge amount of methylation points, and actually it's very hard to explain what I should do to improve my clock. And even if you look into those numerous clocks, you can see that they correlate a lot with chronological age, but not that much with each other. That means that they are connected with different aspects of aging. Often it's not super clear what is the difference. And obviously something you can try with this open source library to actually compute different clocks on your methylation data. And again, I want to focus on the main tendencies that we already have 3 generations of the clocks. So, and this tendency is, I would generalize it. It's not only in methylation clocks. I see it in other clocks as well, that we start by predicting chronological age, but it's not very useful practically, because you want to make some interventions to live longer. Then we get some clocks trained where they also looked into functional biomarkers and disease incidence. And you have 2nd generation clocks when you can actually explain which factors make you younger or older, but they are mostly trained on populations. And many friends of mine actually complained that for them, they measured clocks regularly, that it was pretty unpredictable. Sometimes in several clocks in different days, like have like 1 or 2 years difference on the same person. So you don't know if like one day can make you appear younger or older. Something is wrong. So they are good on population level, but they're not on individual. And 3rd generation clocks, they try to look longitudinal data sets, so you can train it to be more or less robust for individual person with multiple timestamps. And in other clocks like blood clocks and so on, people try to actually follow the same trajectory. And going back to existing trends, let's look into actually using of different machine learning models. So here is actually a history of evolution of machine learning. And the first machine learning, actually, probably majority of you did some machine learning called linear regression, when you tried to fit some data to a line on statistics. And with time, we got new and new concepts. The interesting part of it, if you look into many popular methylation clocks, for example, that For example, Horvath's clock is elastic nets that technically linear regression on steroids. So linear regression and a small trick with regularization. And many other clocks, for example, for blood aging clocks, the most popular ones, they use gradient boosted together with decision trees. So things like LIGBM, XGBoost. So it's actually algorithms discovered originally in 90s. And if we look into more modern stuff, that we see that for visual things like facial aging clocks, video clocks, where you have recognition, people are using convolutional neural networks, and recently they are switching to vision transformers. And there are also some experimental aging clocks, actually some of them by in silico medicine, who will also present in this conference, that are trying top-notch models, and they also trying generative models to predict how things can change if, for example, some genes would express differently or some drugs would be taken. So the question is, why are the majority of the clocks are still lagging behind in terms of models? And actually, when you look into the structure of available data, it's not really surprising. So when I came to bioinformatics, I had this assumption that everybody was talking about this big data. I thought, okay, biology has a lot of data, so it will be possible to use the best deep learning models. In reality, it's actually, to a large extent, a myth, because the data is big in terms of file sizes and in terms of dimensionality. We have like 40 or 60,000 of genes, depending on sequencing type. We have also a huge amount of proteins, 20 million methylation sites. But the issue is that the number of samples is very small and way smaller than the number of features. That means that a typical rule of thumb that the more powerful model you have, the more number of samples should be larger than number of features. Otherwise, it would just overfit and will always find some way to make non-meaningful predictions. Yeah, so this is the major problems. And unfortunately, when you have hundreds of data sets, hundreds of samples, you cannot train something really fancy, but things are actually changing. So in terms of the recent trends, there was this RDD conference papers on actually summarizing things. So stuff that I was talking, it's also reflected is actually different. So we see use of some generative model, and one of the reasons, and also a huge use of explanatory AI. So a few words about explanatory AI is actually in this slide you see typical attitude to a person who got his methylation clock, for example. So you see some number, and you actually don't know what it means. Is it like I am not working out enough, I'm older, or I am my diet is wrong? So you see some kind of black box prediction. And to mitigate it, and what you actually saw in some of the recent aging clocks, that they trained so-called explanatory XI models that just take your major model and play with it in order to understand which features are important. So here in this picture, you see actually comparison like black box models that just somehow detects cat and you don't really understand how. And another model that it's explanatory, it actually tries to define some features, if it has whiskers, if it has tail, if it has claws. This is way more useful when you want to make a decision. And by the way, the whole explanatory AI movement was pushed hard by DARPA. That's kind of interesting. And one example that is very illustrative of this is that the way how machine learning model makes recognition is very different from our human intuition. And here it's a 1 pixel attack when people analyze the model and discovered the most used pixels. And they change 1 pixel and it turns horse into frog, deer into airplane. And for humans, it's almost impossible to see what changed because humans look into some reasonable features. And we try to, because we want the model to have actionable, meaningful features, we actually try to understand how models makes decision and connect them with something that makes meaning and that we can change. And here are some examples for explanatory models in medical diagnostics. You see with color, it shows which region is the most important for the model. Here is from one of the blood aging logs that you see you have like a base age, like it's, this is a method called Shapley additive explanations. It's like it assumes that you have a base age of say 48, and then it's just some features like total cholesterol is probably bad. It says you're 3.5 years older, and some features, for example, like your glucose values, they are better than are needed for your age, so they decrease your prediction of biological age. So this is a local explanation of specific decisions. There are also globals that explain general behavior. And majority of aging clock now that are recent actually using some similar techniques. So yes, so I talked about explanatory AI, but obviously the most interesting trend now is actually large language models and all those fancy generative diffusion and other models. And what actually changed, why we finally starting to get some data. So you see that biology and medicine, it had like a long way, and it was pretty hard to train something like with several hundred samples to make some deep meaningful predictions with like 40,000 features. But because of single cell data, we are actually getting way more data. Because even though it's expensive, you can spend like 4,000 euros on one sample, but you have millions of cells, and you know knowledge on a cell level. That means synthetically you can think about each cell as a microsample. And that means that with this, if you have 2 million cells, and for example, you have on this, because you detect less genes, for example, you had like 10,000 genes that you stably could detect, it means 10,000 features and 2 million samples. And suddenly you actually can train fancy deep learning models, and you are not bounded by this limitation. And what actually it leads to that in the past, we had this trend of hypothesis-driven search. When we had some idea that something influences something, we gathered data, we connected it, we made some study, we checked our hypothesis. It's pretty robust, but it's like a lot of effort and a lot of time. And now when we are actually getting large models that can make their predictions, we often go like in more agnostic way. What will the data tell us? So we see what interesting things we get out of the model, and then we screen them, and then we see which of them makes sense, and then we investigate them already like in a hypothesis slow but more robust way. And same second part is that we are switching from correlations that people wrote a lot about, like connection of your coffee and lifespan. Or for example, there was this interesting thing with methylation clocks. When people checked correlations in terms of improvement of biological age, And kidney transplants or RC therapy were the best in many methylation clocks, simply because you do kidney therapy when you're already bad, and like a kidney transplantation. And obviously, for people who need kidney transplantation, their methylation age predictions will improve a lot. But it doesn't mean that all of us have to transplant kidneys to become younger. And yeah, and also many classical methods with multiple statistical analysis, they change into using different generative models and assessing their behavior. And the way how we are actually dealing with this large amount of data that we get from various sources, obviously, the major source is text that we see in large language models that are trained like on trillions tokens, but also with single cell RNA sequencing and some other modalities, we're also getting larger data. The way how it's trained is actually in several steps, because even if we get like 20 million cells, we don't have like labels, what the cell do. So we first have to learn, it's called pre-training, a compile or training foundational model, people also call it this way, a compact representation of the domain. And well, for example, if we take, I will just imagine we have like a rectangle, like, well, here is a phone. Imagine we are just training something on geometry. So if we look into pixel by pixel, well, I don't know if you have like 30 million pixels phone, it will spend like a lot of memory and a lot of 30 million parameters to actually start understanding how it behaves. But if we, for example, dealing on a geometrical way, and we learned that it's actually some parallelogram to describe its shape, we just need what is the width, what is the height, what is, if it's 3D, what is the depth, and maybe some other things like color. And it means that when we do this pre-training, trying to understand how data is structured, we get way smaller number of parameters. And on top of those parameters, we can already, because we have less parameters, we can train in a classical supervised or semi-supervised way, and we can get better understanding. And we can also even generate some synthetic data. And the way, and also, so here I had like these examples with in biology when we think that every cell is a sample, and we try to somehow predict the expressions. But if we talk about what is closer to us, the words, if we take any large language models, is actually, well, formally it's a decoder based transformer model. That means that you get some input and every steps, it just generates a new token. Well, it's almost a new word. And when it actually pre-trains, it gets text. When you just delete some, it's called masked training, delete some words, and you try to predict those words out of context. That means that you don't really need to label everything. You can just learn the with attention mechanism, the representation. And here, for example, on the picture, you see a representation of different words. It's called embeddings. So it's technically they have multi-dimensional space. And where if model is trained, it recognizes that cats are closer to dogs than bananas. And you can even do some arithmetics, like, for example, like queen and king and men and women. And you can see that like the relationship, if you add, like, if you add something from women to a king, it will be queen. like semantically speaking. And it's also used in a technique called semantic similarity search, when instead of searching by keywords, you search by similarity in representation space. And often it can understand totally different synonyms that have used different letters just by how close they are. And here is how we do it with, so here are two ways how things actually, it happens in all LLMs that you use either autoregressive or masked modeling. That means that you just use part of the sequence. So you split the sequence into tokens, can be nucleotides, can be like specific genes, and then you substitute some, you try to learn and substitute something that you delete by surrounding. And important terminology here is when you train this compact representation, is then you make a second step that you can train it to do something useful, because when it learns representation, it will be way easier to have for even like supervised training. Like, for example, what will change if I will knock out the gene? So if you have a good pre-training, you will need way less data and you will get way better accuracy if you will train on tasks of your interest. And here is example from GeneFormer. It's very popular single-cell RNA-seq foundational model. Then it's when zero-shot learning, like when you just, it's pre-trained, it already can be a bit useful when you try to describe processes like some reprogramming or differentiation. But if you want to do something useful, for example, you're doing partial reprogramming and you want to understand which dosages of Yamanaka or some alternative factors you have to give to actually push the cell state, you actually need to take foundational model and give it additional supervised or semi-supervised data, like what happens when I add, what will be there in a seq when I add this transcriptional factor. And with this way, it actually trains. So on the right, you see like how GeneFormer, what useful stuff it can do when you train it after fine-tuning. With large language models, it's also, if you look any foundational model for human use, it's pretty useless. Because what it was learned, it's like takes part of Wikipedia, you delete some words, it predicts missing words. So if you give like half a page of Wikipedia, it will predict you the last half of Wikipedia. That means that it's not what we really want. We want like smart chatbots. For this reason, people use fine-tuning, including methods with reinforcement learning that actually turn it into like producing some useful dialogue-based output. So here are some examples from GeneFormer. And also important part that is actually similar both for biology. So here I am just trying to show the similarities. So in both cases, when you pre-train some model and then you fine-tune it for your task, for large language models, fine-tuning can be like answering chat and giving something useful. If you want to improve its performance, you can either improve your querying, what you ask, or you can do additional post-training by like tuning it with either supervised data or with some feedback, like you like this answer or not. And typically the best thing to try is first to do, you shouldn't start fine-tuning until you will understand that I did everything I could with prompting. That's like a general rule of thumb, because prompting is often way easier and you actually understand what are the problems that you have to fine-tune. And there are some methods that actually allow fine-tuning. You don't need to be OpenAI to fine-tune it, because there are some parameter efficient models like LoRa methods, LoRa or some adapter base, that you don't train the whole multi-billion parameter models. You train a subset of it for your application. So if we will have time, actually, Livia would show how fine-tuning works in practice on your actually personal computer with a small 7 billion model. And also, overall, if we talk about model, we also have the context that you have, like, it's integrated into some application where it is useful. And when you develop it, you think what you develop it for. If you need to develop, or you can, majority of models are actually just fine-tuned on top of popular open source models like QN or Llama. And then people just adapt or merge and adapt to their task. And in many cases, it's actually even like ChatGPT, there are ways to fine-tune it. So in many cases, developing a model from scratch is actually big overhead that you shouldn't do. And the last part is actually how you will use it in your app, because models can give useful output, but they can also orchestrate, and with help of models, you can have autonomous agents that call functions and do some job. And the last, in terms of connections between LLMs and biology, is actually really interesting paper on cell to sentence, when people said, okay, why should we invent the ways to specifically describe biology differently if we already have good models that work with text? Maybe we can just get, like here on the picture, you see that it just spit out the text of the genes, and then it say, okay, I will take general text model and we'll just train it to spit out RNA expression phrases. And surprisingly, this approach actually works. And yeah, so here are like more details how they do it, that they just train it as if it's a text model. They just, instead of regular tasks, they just textify the expression matrices, but they train it as if it has like masked parts of the text. And so this is like how they do it, a sentence to genes. And in, for example, gene former, about which I talked, they did a bit differently. They had a specific way that they were afraid, because biology data is extremely noisy. So they didn't look into exact expression values. They just looked into ranking, like which gene is more expressed than others. So they actually just had a sorted list by expression in rank. So it's like first, second, third, and then they just tried to predict the rank of a gene that is masked from the surrounding. And the challenges overall of training new foundational biological models is like you have to, so to fine tune, you don't need that much, but to make foundational model to pre-train it, you need petaflops of computation, and not many labs can afford it. And the other problem is that it's still like very early stage, and still the amount of data is growing because of single cell sequencing and other trends, but it's still very small, that often you actually don't have enough data. And actually there is a way, when you read any papers about another LLM generative foundational model, you can understand if it makes sense or not. If somebody tried to use, so foundational model, you needed to compactly represent biological processes. If you made this representation and you trained on top of this representation, and it is better than you trained without any representation, then it makes sense. And as you see in this chart, in actually many cases, majority of them are just additional complexity, and they don't really improve results in terms of if you just train the data directly, like some prediction of something on the raw data without these models. It can be similar in accuracy, and obviously it will improve when there will be more data. And in terms of like dealing with models, so Olivia will show it, but to let you know that most of the non-proprietary models are on Hugging Face, and there are different leaderboards. In Rostock, we are actually considering building some leaderboard about answering aging research questions. So if anybody of you who has medical background is interesting, we actually would have some querying. So far we started with like medical things, whether like a person should, for example, take rapamycin at some dosage, because here we can check for toxicity efforts, but we will consider doing also other relative measurements. And one thing to mention also, there is this popular trend where people try to, those so-called biohackers, they try to like measure everything about themselves. And there are many startups that try to make so-called digital twins. It means that if you told the model everything about you and it knows everything, like what's your weight, what did you do, it can actually answer your personalized questions better because it has it in the context. And the last chapter is actually our developments. Actually, one of the main things that I do is this Longevity Genie open source project that, by the way, is supported by Hill. So thank you very much, Didier. We actually started it for pragmatic reasons that like a year and a half ago when ChatGPT 4 became a thing and there was like boom of models, and it still actually continues. We wanted to get better answers on aging related questions. And in my case, I started just trying how it will answer genetic questions because we have a second open source project, Just DNA-seq, that can generate your reports and make some analysis in an open source way for longevity genetics. And by that time, actually still now for many genes, it actually gives really bad results. So for ChatGPT and other models, they are usually trained on the most popular data. So it's a problem of short neck, long tail, is that it is really answering well on popular topics like, for example, APOE, it knows more or less well, even though actually it makes mistakes sometimes. But if it is like cutting edge research that is not talked a lot and not properly indexed or is meaningful for a small number of people, they know it pretty bad and they make also a lot of mistakes. And yeah, so here are examples of some of our like internal tests with this. And also there are issues when, so LLMs are also like humans, they are bad in counting numbers because actually of probabilistic way how they are trained. So they actually have to generate Python code to actually do serious mathematical computation. So at Hackathon, like year and a half ago, we actually developed a chatbot. We used, by that time, we did it on top of ChatGPT API. Now we actually support multiple models, including Llama, including ChatGPT, including Claude. And we taught them to generate queries to databases, actually something that will also Livia show you how to do today. And it had like bad results in the beginning. And then with some improvements, we actually got really on point results. And okay, let me skip to some technical details. And yeah, and we had also custom GPTs that people could use with just regular custom chat GPTs. And now we have this longevity. I can actually show you. So we have longevity Genie website. So if you ask like about specific, for example, allele, what it does, it actually makes a query to our genetic databases, and it gives way more information than regular ChatGPT. And we have like multiple, so far it's very hard to make everything as one model. So we have like multiple models. So technically it's some agents that are run by ChatGPT Mini or other models. And so we have genetics Genie. We also have one on open genes. Let me show. So OpenGenes, it's actually what Livia was working about. So if you can ask about like what, oh, I think,
Алло,
okay, I will
פספסתי
check the
את
model. I
הוורקשופ,
think
אני לא
something
זה.
was wrong with
לא,
the
נגמור
update.
עם זה, זה לא התחיל.
Okay, let's try here. Yeah, so if you ask, for example, yeah, because we have like 2 deployments. So if you ask, for example, what extended lifespan in mice of expressing VEGF, you get some values. But if you ask the same like regular chat GPT, actually, I'm curious to know. So it made some search on a gene, but you see it doesn't have any numbers. That means that it doesn't, one of the most important things that you want to get is like what extends my lifespan. And here actually it, so there is this OpenGenes database and it provides information about longevity associated genes and how much they extend lifespan. And in our case, it can query this database. So we have a lot of questions about like different genes and different interventions and even some gene variants that regular ChatGPT without databases barely knows. And the other thing, let me actually show. The other thing is that you can, so here we are using large language models to call different functions and to do different actions. And it can actually interact with specific models trained on biological data. So here is actually, okay. So there is, let me first explain, and then I will show some info. So here are like I showed for ChatGPT for different genetics and longevity related questions. We also have integrations to obviously just DNA-seq platforms. So in genomic reports, you have LLM summarizations. And yeah, and we also have integrations. Let me go to specific. Okay, let me see. So we also have integrations with some generative models like Precious GPT. They have by in silico medicine. So they have a little bit like in their deployment, it takes them some time to okay, so looks like their endpoint is temporarily non-responding, but yeah, but it's on their side. And I will later restart it and show how actually it works. And another thing, actually, so we also have learned a lot. So we implemented, so I showed you some databases. We actually, in bioinformatics, we have a lot of databases, and obviously you don't have, if you have a small team, you don't have much of researchers, but a lot of resources to implement everything. So what we have done is that we developed a bunch of modules, open source libraries, and the way to extend. That means that, well, Livia will show some stuff, how things work, but it's very easy if you have a database of your interest, let this like biology, aging, or totally unrelated. It's pretty easy to add an agent that can also query this database, and it will use ChatGPT, Llama, whatever model you want, and will also get some extra data from the database that is not indexed, because databases are typically not indexed by large language models. And we learned also several things that if you put too many databases at once to like one model, it starts like confusing. It's like a human with too many choices. And now we are developing a two-stage approach when we have first a router model that decides which databases are needed and then selects, talks with the agents that know those databases. It's not yet deployed. However, you're also using another technique called knowledge graphs. And the idea of knowledge graphs is that you just merge many databases together in like a knowledge graph, and you query as if it is one database. So we have, we are a member of BioCharter Consortia that is actually working on this technology. So on the picture, you see that you have different adapters that convert different resources and feed in one large Neo4j database. So your LLM will just query one database. And here are example of drug interactions of metformin. We can also call other models. So I will restart to see if Precious GPT is up again. But here is an example of Gluformer. It's actually model trained by Livia on top of glucose values predictions. That is useful not only for diabetic, but it might be useful when there will be enough data for healthy people to track their diet and sports. And yeah, and let me see, let me check if Precious GPT is back. Okay, I hope it's not cached. Okay, it looks it's actually, so they, let's run it. So it looks like it's running because it usually takes time to get an answer from them. Okay, as soon as it will finish, I will give an example. So, oh, wonderful. So I will show you now. Yeah, so they had this configuration. If you don't query them for a long time, they just freeze it. And usually you have to wait until it gets active again. But here it's actually worked. I asked, could you please provide me with the expression profile for a 70-year man? And it actually generated a synthetic which genes are expected to be upregulated and downregulated for such parameters. And we integrated it with, so let me show another query. They integrated it with standard bioinformatic tools like gene set enrichment that can actually explain what those genes means, because the model tells, okay, these genes will be activated and this will be downregulated, but usually you look at higher level like biological processes. And here I, for example, ask another query. It's more interesting that if it's if it is how skin proteomics data would behave if a 30-year-old women are taking metformin. And obviously for non-like experts, just names of the proteins are not useful. But after enrichment, you can actually see that you have some estrogen signaling that is upregulated, probably good. And then you have some downregulated UV response and apoptosis. That's probably bad. So here is like a screenshot that explains it, shows the part that we got from Precious GPT and like enrichment tools. So we can, ideally, if we have enough tools, we can connect multiple databases and multiple models together. That means that if you have a project, it like checks, okay, I have to call this library for analysis, and then I have to use Precious GPT to predict what will change. And then I will see which processes are involved. And then you can also get some data from database and some text to have like some ideas and decisions that can be interesting to investigate and validate if it's true or not. And yeah, and actually regarding Precious GPT here, They actually have, I think that there will be in silico talk today. So I just briefly mentioned that they trained pretty small, actually, transformer model on expression data and knowledge graphs. But it's actually good at small because it's easy to run. You don't need supercomputers, and it gives predictions that if you plan how you want to extend lifespan of something, you can just say, what will do if I give this drug and overexpress this gene? And it's the way how, actually, I totally agree with their vision, is that you can make a lot of simulations to get like interesting idea from the data. It's like data-driven hypothesis. Then you can do some screening. And in silico, they have robotics lab for it, but there are other things like for C. elegans, there are those automation machines, for example. And then you use some LLMs, and in silico, they have Dora, for example, that are integrated with papers to actually summarize things together. Coming back, so that's what we are working on. And overall, now we are actually working on also multi-agent systems, like you can split everything like a team, that you can have different engines, like assimilated researchers, that one does criticism, another does research, another can call models or write code. Actually, this approach worked well in programming, and we are also making things extendable. So if you want to have an LLM chatbot that can run your tools or analyze your data or answer about your databases, we are open for collaboration. And I think with this, I already overloaded you with new information. Just want to briefly mention like the team behind the project. And I think the best way to understand things is actually to try some simple things yourself. So here is the team involved. And with this, I will give a word to Livia to actually show some basic things about LLM agents.
Maybe first, Anton, if there are questions. Also in the chat.
Wenn man Schrift von Autos vor der Tür ist, nicht erkannt, dann ich auf jeden Fall also die liegen in unserem Garten. Ja, genau. Mit ihr bei. Maximal Stunde 14. Das ist der Problem mit der Schweiz, mit dem Welt. Das ist der Wert.
Well, I think that obviously nobody knows because it's hard to predict. I see some short-term trends that now people are actually saying about hitting the wall, that with just increasing the size of the data. First, it's very hard because what they could, they already index. Second is that so just inputting more data to the models, it has diminishing returns. And now we actually have a second S-curve called test time compute, that instead of training it with larger and larger data, they train the model of multi-step reasoning. So if Livia will have time, she will show, for example, how chain of thought works, that model can make, because models, like if you ask ChatGPT, it's like zero shot answer. Like you ask it, immediately give answer. But we, like as humans, we don't typically do it. We have multiple steps. So look into the draft, make like a short drafts and refine it. And test time compute is a simulation of this approach with some reinforcement learning. If you use either O1 preview from ChatGPT, or actually recently there is an open source model called DeepSeek. So they actually implementing it. Second thing, I think that world models will say their words. So there are some limitations what we can learn from text, and world model AIs is that they simulate physical reality. And that means that if you have a multi-model model, that it can deal not only with text, but can understand shapes, can understand physical laws, can understand the world. And we overall have this trend for multimodality, like you can have vision prediction just with ChatGPT. So it can make some generalization. And I also think something should be done maybe in the direction of using more reinforcing learning, because like, for example, we saw it with AlphaGo, that in they had in the beginning, they just trained against known parties, but then it just started playing against itself, and actually it got more results. So maybe if and also in terms of, by the way, in terms of biology, I actually like in silico approach that you have to automate stuff, because to get more data, it has to be like many synthetically generated hypotheses and some robotized things to generate and sequence data quickly. Maybe there will be startups like, for example, like if you took ChatGPT or Claude, they mostly buy more compute. And maybe for biology AI, it will be, people will be just funding to do way more perturbation screening to just get way more biological data, because the data is actually a big limit, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just general thoughts, I would say.
I have one kind of technical question.
Well, the thing is, there are like deciding by because they can learn things that it's like not very sufficient for humans, but it's enough to differentiate. Like, for example, there was the funny situation when there was a computer vision company, and they trained their models to decide on faces, and at some point things stopped working for the boss who returned from vacation. And then when they investigated, they learned that it learned how his tie looked like. And because they had some bias in their data that others didn't have same tie, it actually, you take out the tie. With 1 pixel, it's if it's really sophisticated model, it's very hard to do with 1 pixel. But for simple model, it's actually can, in some cases, it can be 1 pixel that is very specific to another class, that for some reason model considers very important, it's like this tie that it was learned at the boss. But I think maybe we don't have that much time. Maybe I can give word to Livia. So if you don't, yeah.
Very quickly.
Well, it depends because honestly, in my case, I mostly deal with just regular. I mean, I'm not like inventing new LLMs. I am mostly like using them to make something meaningful. So in majority of cases, you try to go just prompt engineering and some interesting things with agents and with tool calling and fine tuning. It's something that you use when you see that a specific thing they fail and you don't use it for every. For example, I skipped the slide but I had a slide explaining why fine-tuning is not the best to memorize precise facts. And if you use it like to get through around like a bottleneck, like a model, for example, doesn't know how to generate some SQL for specific database, then it's useful. But overall, I mean, I think because now I talked a lot of theory and some people even think that are not in machine learning field, they think they got everything, but typically you need to just try something practical, something basics to understand if you understand it or not. So I think I would give so if maybe other questions we can do after Livia part.
Yeah, thank you. And
Okay, so do you hear me? Okay, I hope it's okay. So after what Anton told us, we have to do like some practical stuff, but it won't be complicated. That's the good part. I'll post into the chat, basically, wait for my computer to be line. The GitHub page, and that contains the links, or maybe I just put the links.
You can give direct the direct notebooks that worked for you.
I put the direct notebooks. That's better. So I put in the chat the links for
some people are not on the Zoom, and it's better not because so if you can also.
Okay,
I don't
I'll
know
open
how,
obviously
or
share screen.
QR
Obviously.
code, or, yeah, I don't know.
Well.
For the people here, I mean, who are not.
Those,
Yes, but I don't really have QR codes.
but they will open in a Zoom chat
They
because
are not-
everybody, but they are in Zoom, they're connected.
No,
Not all.
not all of them.
Yeah, that's.
Should we go into?
No, send the link to me, and I will send the link to the all people here.
It's on the chat. I've just.
Yeah, but I cannot go.
Okay, so you want it via mail? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, paradoxically, the best. thing.
Okay. Anton, please, can you send it by mail?
Okay.
Because my internet and computer is kind of going
Okay,
low.
but yeah.
What's the code for getting all the information?
Ethical one.
Ethical one, yeah. Okay,
So I sent to Didier.
Yeah, please send the mail. The thing is, my computer is kind of moving slowly, so that's why I asked Anton to send it, but it's not a problem. Okay, I'll share the screen meanwhile, because it has to think. Share. And I'll open the tab. So, whenever you get the link via email, Zoom, chat, whichever, what it will open is this page, which is called Google Colab. Basically, it's a way of coding that allows you to work online and not to install stuff on your computer. It just requires a Google account. Hopefully, everyone has a Google account. So, does everyone have? Not yet.
I don't receive it yet. The email.
I didn't the email.
No, I did. But but people, yeah, I gave it. So it's just the delay on your side.
Didier@gmail.com?
Yeah.
Not mine, sir? Mine, sir?
No, Didier.
Yeah, okay. Voilà.
It went? Okay.
Yeah, it's coming. Just a few seconds.
Okay. So while the link is sent, I'm going to explain a bit. It's structured in more parts, actually, this tutorial. The first two probably will get through. I don't know about the third. but it's meant once to explain how the library Anton and the team wrote, and to explain how it basically works for beginners. You know, like you had the books, Windows for Beginners. It's kind of LLM tutorial for beginners. And every step is explained. Basically, what it starts with is, no, actually it's seeable. Okay, so what it starts with, it's the installment of the library. So, did you manage to open the collab page?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, normally you.
Yeah, first, because it's
So which one we should?
the first, just agents collab.
Okay.
Because I want to explain also how collab works, to get a bit lost. You have these three areas, which are basically code nodes, where you can run it. You see that next to them, you have this play button, which you can click on it and wait while it runs. While it runs, it will have this output that it says, well, in my case, it's requirement already satisfied because I kind of ran it previously, so it had. But in your case, it's not updated. Oh, you're right.
You said internet connection unstable.
Ah,
There's so many now of us got on mine, it's strangled the Wi-Fi.
yeah, and that's why. Oh, okay, it's latent. Yeah.
So how'd you get there?
So use the link. Basically, you have the link that has been shared in the chat. Then you basically open the page, and the first grayed box, it was pip install just agents. It has to contain these steps. If you hover with the mouse above it, you'll have a play button here, which now is the latest state of charging. There is latency in the internet. And after you hit that play button, it will start to run. This is, well, like I said, in my case, requirement already satisfied because it had it. But in your case, we'll probably ask you for permission from Google.
Yeah.
It might have like allow permissions, whatever, and you'll have to allow it. And then it will start downloading and installing packages, which are installed basically an environment online. It's not installing anything on your computer. You can be assured about that. When it's finished, you'll have a green tick in the left side next to the play button. I'm doing it manually because probably if I scroll, internet will complain. So this is the first part of installing the library. It's not anything like complicated. Let's hopefully it does not die. Okay, so that it means it ran in 5 seconds all the code. The second part will kind of require you to get an API. Let's think a bit. An API key is like a password, a code that you get to use a process. That's the simplest way to explain it. And you'll have, like you see some, I hope you see some links. You have the Grok console part here, which some intelligent Anton decided to click it when internet is bad, which you have to click it and go to that site and create an account. It just asks you username, password, and mail, I think. So they give you this key, which is it's
Maybe you can share.
the key.
No, when it,
You click the link
yeah.
when it opens.
Well, I can share some keys so they can save. But you show it and I will share just my
Okay.
key.
So the thing is, when you get that key, you can run what was import get pass. This part, well, basically just ask you for that code. So you do your
So you have to slow down.
yeah. Okay.
Show the key, share the keys.
Okay. you click the grok console. Okay.
For me, I have
Yeah, yeah. Create data key. Yeah. Yeah, and it will allow you basically to have like numbers and characters. You're not it takes the growth constant. And it will take to oh, okay. You have to open and then
The first one.
yes, and the rest and then you have to and probably can do Google account. That's it. Choose your own. Continue. And look. Now you can take it again. Yeah. And you can put the name. Like anyway. Yeah. Your name so you can find it. Okay. And this is yes. So after you copied the newly generated key, you return to the column here. And you run the cell import so you see the data. Yes, and then it will say geography rotate. Enter. And it will set the key. So now you have the key installed. And your system basically can access the system. What did you do? I'm opening it. You can access the services. Okay, so let me see if I'll have the screen back because I returned back to the part.
So you go to this, I do the same thing she said. And
Okay.
it doesn't work?
Okay, what's still going? Because
It's,
and it's still thinking.
yeah, we need your presence. That is
I'm
making
coming,
it
I'm
work.
coming because it doesn't take me.
So I have
Okay. And after you enter the key first, you could create a key and content that.
Okay,
The
No,
payments.
yeah. So
That was very quick.
yeah, my internet came back. That's good. So after we have the key, what?
Yeah,
We
can you copy it because it showed only once.
We paste it. Okay, so we can go to basic examples. We can scroll down to this part. Yes. And we'll have this import JSON stuff
Okay.
here. You can do it here without problem. Yes, it's really fast because this basically just creates the function. So in the virtual memory that you have on Google, now this function exists. Otherwise, it would have not. As a function of collab, you have each cell. You have to take them in order to create in the session whatever tools you need to use. So in this, we need this function get current weather. It's a basic function which just generates a type of file. And scrolling down, if you looking to the next part. Well, you also have the play button. I don't know if it's computer or not. Exactly. That one with something, it should just create the dictionary. So a dictionary is, yeah, but you can see like a dictionary is a type of sorting of like the data structured in table. In this case, they're structured differently, and they tell you basically what you need to know. Yeah, what you need to know about the models. So you see here, it's a model, Grok, Llama, whatever, it has a name. That's why you have to install the API key, because you need to use from Grok the service of Llama 3.2, 90 billion text, whatever. And
You have to click the link.
no, you have to click just on play and let it execute. And after it executes, you can see down. Oh, yeah, you can see down what LLM options are there. You manage to play?
Yes.
Okay.
And
You
then,
have to press
yeah,
down.
I hit. It's a Chromebook maybe because it's not Windows.
It shouldn't, because it's online. Let's see. It might also be internet. I'm kind of
I mean,
Yeah.
in my case, it's internet plus laptop, but in the other case, it was just internet.
Okay,
I
let's wait.
Yeah, so that one is thinking. Let's see. Any other issues? Or did they say? So yeah, it gave the result. It read the dictionary first of all.
Yep.
What it said. Any complaints from the script? Okay.
No.
Yeah, the
It's quite
script.
clear.
I told you it should be quite stable.
The dictionary just has 3 things in it.
Yeah, this dictionary is, like I said, a way of structuring the data. It's so that the computer understands it, basically. And look, when we scroll down, we have, sorry, I still have delay also in my stream.
Understanding the inner mechanism.
Exactly. Well, it's important because this is like the simple basic principle. On the next code block, you have using basically that you use the ticket. So you're using the here. The previous step. You're using the tools. You have to learn just like you like it run. So you have to use and this is like a prompt. It's a test prompt. So one of the lines now that we define it like statically. You know, one that the get weather part that right was statically defined. If you scroll, and hopefully this will also do. You have the text which says what happens in San Francisco and yeah, Tokyo and Paris. This internet
You
is.
can edit it. So I changed Tokyo to London.
Yes, but
It gave
later.
me a very nice answer.
Yes, later we'll also have that because I was this example. I said I want to see from online. It's not nice. Yeah, actually call that. What happens behind the hood, let's say, is the LLM generates this model response, a nice human response. The current weather is
We only told it.
yeah, now we'll have Brussels. We'll have later Brussels. I promise you. So, understanding the inner mechanics. This one still doesn't work? Is it recording video? It's gonna delay most likely because it's horrible on my side. So, for people to clearly see what happens behind the hood, you have the import print of this one, which I scrolled up to, but it's not yet refreshed. Yes. well, my laptop internet hates. It will show you exactly what happens behind the hood. Like I said, you'll have tool calls, and it tells you basically what function was with what and what he understood. So remember, I told you dictionary is a way that the computer understands. You can see, I had refresh. You can actually see that it outputs everything in dictionaries.
Yeah.
So you have it. The dictionaries are defined by this like brackets and by basically titles and data. You have the name like ID, type, role, functions, which are the titles. They're called keys. Well, and values, which are whatever values like string, like function, like what calls. I have it back. And this is how it understands. So it's don't touch it. So it's more structured. You said about tree structure, it already thinks in tree structure. So, but this just so you understand why we do all crazy stuff. And after it runs, you see at the end the return, very human response. Like when you ask a human, what's the weather like today here? Oh, it's slightly sunny with 72 degrees, whatever. And let me see if it works. Basically, you can also use this like if you're at home and read the comments. They're kind of what I explained, but like written probably more clearly. So here, this was actually funny. The task for you. It was an example we had at the previous workshop. Okay, people see how it's specified. What we wanted and it receives and that's one from that file in particular. So we have by Winter Lover and but it's not a new frozen late. We just changed the input, the return, and the comments. I mean, like what the function does. And if you have the same LLMs with the same agent, like you see, the same lab, and if get weather by city, because we decided to name, and we just play. Hopefully it works. Import print and to the one I explained before. It was to see how it's structured like a dictionary. Yeah. After the one is not for you, where is the origin basically of well, it has 2000.
This one.
Yes.
Okay.
I will add few words. So technically, like it's just a software way to have this chat, like ChatGPT. So in ChatGPT, everything is actually presented
Like
this way. Like you have message that somebody writes, it's either user or assistant. Assistant is AI, user is like you. And technically, we are simulating now what we are doing with user interface in ChatGPT. And the thing is, you also have messages, like they say tools or something else. So the idea there is that actually, even though LLM knows how only generate text, so if it's even called text completion, it can actually was trained to that if you tell it which tools are available, it can actually just make a text that I want to use this function, and this function, like a programming function, like running on your machine, can actually be executed, but execution is not by LLM. LLM only can generate text. Execution is done by a library that recognizes keywords that tool call and parameters. And in this way, you can actually write your own code, make your own tools. There are also nowadays people create no coding environments when you do everything visually for no people who don't have time to learn Python for some reason. And technically you can just explain it which tools to use, and it will do it by generating this tool call, and your system will recognize it. And now it's like with Claude, you can even configure that it will control your computer. So if your computer will allow you to actually execute something on it to a model, it's a kind of a bit technical. It can actually control your computer. And so the idea is similar. We're just showing like the inner working of it.
Yeah.
So in fact, you generated a new prompt,
Mhm.
which generates a new modular prompt. Is that right? Because suddenly there is Rostock.
Yeah, because the new prompt was, what's the weather like in Rostock?
Yes.
And where did you get the info from? It's like when you're chatting with ChatGPT
Okay.
and it returns. So, look, because you were complaining we don't have Brussels, we have example implementation where we can actually change the city. So it's this long cell code. But what we can change, first of all, we need to run this huge code, the example implementation code. You have to hit the play button, and then we'll have the simple code where you just have to mention the city. In that case, it was Berlin. I wanted Berlin. Doesn't matter. We can put Brussels. Stop moving.
So it will just go to the internet and find the specific city.
Let's see what it says, if it works. So, let's edit. Well, it said get the weather by city, and it's written Berlin. You can change to whatever city you actually want. Okay, Glade is okay.
So it's below this actual function.
So, if it's typed. It's so weird writing with delay. So we just have to change the city in between, like comma, and let's see what happens. I have no idea what's in Brussels according to internet. Let's see what it says. I think spelled, maybe.
No.
It's nothing.
Yeah, guys, don't change the functions. We for people who are not coders as well. You just change the equation to a.
But
So here you have changed to Berlin, and you see
But-
Berlin, but you can change it to Brussels. So, Brussels.
but it needs the coordinates here. I see.
It was task for you. So you're so fast.
Yes.
Hold on, you didn't delete anything.
Yes, I have to check a bit
Then you can see, like,
because
check, for example,
it
for Berlin, it will,
didn't
so
get
you check that it works.
for
And
city.
then you can actually
Why didn't it get the
for
city
example,
though?
Here you change the prompt. Yeah, guys, only change the prompt because it's how you change, like, the prompt is what you say to ChatGPT or to whatever. model. Don't change the code.
The one
Unless you are know how to code. In such case, it's okay. to
And then
change.
you run it.
Yeah.
The one did you run?
And it's very cold in Brussels.
No,
Okay. The thing is,
But
probably,
it's
so what's the
accurate.
last one
It's
you ran?
exactly one.
the last thing I did, it was giving
How does he
the
know?
code.
It's
I
calling
I
a real-
didn't
it's
the
calling a
YAML.
real API.
Okay.
I think you made a type error.
Calling an API.
Yeah,
within that you
correct
are
it, that
called.
one, please. You are allowed to correct it. The thing is, you have to run these code blocks because
Ah, okay.
usually they wouldn't know the existence. But what is his problem now?
Yeah.
Why you didn't have? You didn't install? I don't know. Okay. Let me see. So let's see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then like you did it. Right? Do you think it's not? Oh, okay. He didn't install it. Okay.
Yeah, that was the issue. I didn't.
You have to click all the code things because
Okay, let's. Yeah, it's annoying when you forget one. I agree.
Yeah, good.
Trying to get it to go slowly. Well, I think I misspelled here. Well, I wrote it with the help of ChatGPT, to be honest. So I had the structure, the base, and when I had like questions, I like refactor or recode because there's stuff that are
so it kind of answered in a human way.
a
So the
bit
function just
differently
gives answer, but
because
LLM it actually can interpret it.
basically you have differences between coding directly on your computer and coding on Colab. So there are like snippets in coding. I mean, this get API key, you just have like a file and you don't have to input it. But because it's not hard coded, you kind of have I know what I misspelled. Yeah. So if you make spelling mistakes like I did accidentally here in Brussels.
But actually, you can make it in LLM prompt and it will correct it.
Yeah, well,
Actually, it should correct it.
I don't want to do it in the LLM prompt because I hope my computer stays alive and does not lose the connection. So it wouldn't know the results like you said. No data. I don't know what city you're talking about. So theoretically, now it should work properly. That's first thing I went and checked the code, but I was just.
But now you're checking the function directly.
Mhm.
But if you ask an
So,
LLM, it will figure out to fix it. I tell you.
Yeah. So here, basically, see it says temperature, but why does it says 21 degrees in what unit? In Celsius? They're not updated.
It's different between Brussels and Brussels.
Yeah.
Okay, Livia, can I just make? I will just make it.
Can we move to Brussels?
What are you doing? Okay,
Why is it
because I want
your
Brazil.
computer? You know,
If you know how to fix my computer, I'm happy to hear that.
it's too late.
Yeah. Okay.
But actually, if you can say Brussels, Belgium, it LLM will correct it because it knows how to spell properly.
Well, if it would. Let's see. So I have to misspell.
Yeah, you can spell Belgium. And it will actually see like
Belgium.
it will correct.
Yeah. That's okay. I edited it. Did you?
Yeah, but do it in prompt, not in function, in prompt, because
Yeah.
prompt is what you give to LLM, and maybe it'll figure out to fix your mistake.
And
I'm
see,
actually curious.
I have no idea. I actually tried not to do spelling mistakes.
That's a fun part of LLM.
Let's here play to see what happens. It thinks. Maybe now it will actually tell us the wonderful weather outside, which is not 20 degrees. Definitely. Yeah, because this one uses look 1.6 degrees Celsius. That's why we were freezing. And 24.8 kilometers per hour. Kind of windy to fly a drone, actually. But as you see, I actually fixed the spelling mistakes in case. So this was just with the function calling. It's the, let's say, the basic stuff. The second part of basic stuff is agents. Agents are, you can think of it like functions which have a role. It's more like. They're also based on the LLM call that we used previously, but you give them like who you are, what you do, well, how's your life? Not exactly, but basically that's the one. We have the first weird looking code here. is just to download YAML. YAML is a file.
Another machine language.
Exactly. So just hit the play button there. It should move pretty quickly. Indeed. File not found.
I've hit a little bit of a problem with the model. Because
Okay.
I always write that is, I hope that helps spread your trip to
Let's
Brussels
move.
nostalgia.
So it's
Wow.
same,
What was it?
That is YAML?
no, you have to get a widget.
No.
So
We
first,
get so
so first the widget, guys, because widget is the one that downloads.
Ah, you have broken.
Not to read immediately.
broken.
No.
So I read immediately and he said this.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you had this,
Now it
so
should
it's
actually-
downloaded. It says downloaded.
Okay,
file.
but in fact, I should open this.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
No, because I went a bit too far and people thought it was the second code. Now
So
you
now?
can, now you
This
can
one.
play the second code, which basically it shows you what is there. So you have assistant pros, you are a helpful assistant. That could count letters in words. Okay,
Okay.
it doesn't sound very complicated.
But the funny part is that for a long time, LLMs couldn't do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
strawberry.
So yes, strawberry, but actually now they learn strawberry specifically not to piss people off. That's why we have to ask to count the numbers in another
Yeah.
word. So just memorize by heart that strawberry is some number.
Only letters S in the word Brussels.
Yes, we can change to that.
Yeah.
You got it right.
Yeah. So after we saw that what YAML was imported, we can actually run the one with counting the number of occurrences. This 32 labeled stuff. Does it show? Oh, it's still scrolling.
And this is using Grok, which is
Yeah.
from Elon Musk's.
No.
No.
Grok is so there are several groks.
Two groks.
Originally, actually, there was the origin of the word. It was before Elon Musk and anybody. Is when they trained models, they discovered that if you overfeed models and run it for long, that is kind of very stupid. For in regular machine learning, you don't want to burn a lot of money, and if it overfeeds, you stop training. That's crazy. Maybe somebody just forced to stop it. They discovered that at some point, if you overfeed the results, that it like tries to be too good for a training set and doesn't generalize. At some point, it actually starts generalizing, and it's called grokking. And different startups and labs, they start using Grok just because it's like from this paper. And Elon Musk made Grok, and these guys who made Grok U is like a startup that did a specific chip to make things run fast. And they have Grok U, and that's the confusion. And this kind of
Okay, so you can change actually the query where I just did it. Yeah, you can change it to whatever. Count the number of occurrences of the letter, whichever in the word, whichever. I mean, you can
I'm all right.
you can do it, and then you can hit the play button.
But this kind of YAML thing is more like we have instead of writing with code, we had an alternative way. Like if you look into this YAML file, you see a non-programming person. If you say just you change some sections, it's easier for non-programming people to edit YAML files than to edit code.
It's
So it's just the alternative way to do the same stuff.
It's structuring so you can find the code better if you want to look at it. But what's the funny part is that we've seen how you can call it the function, how you can like make an agent that has a role. What happens when you have multiple agents? Well, I think Anton also had this slide because we used the image. But let's see a bit how it works, but I have to slow down. Okay, so here we want to simulate a dialogue between Kamala Harris and Trump, because it was prior to the elections and we want to have some fun dialogue. Yeah, you can run this node.
And actually, notice that we use different models. We use
Yes.
for Trump, and these rollers do more model. And I think Brock for a lot
Well, this one has been selected from Grok because we kind of have the issue.
no, but we have two models on
The code here was written, so user could have used also more advanced models like from the OpenAI, but it would be supposed to have another API key, and so we just left it with the Grok key. So
and also Rock is free, unlike
Yes.
GPT API.
so for testing reasons, it's better. So after you run it, you'll have this weird. Oh, it didn't. Go up. You'll have this comment which says uncomment if you want to use ChatGPT instead, but you'll need like you run this one 33 thing. You play this one. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about the comment. Exactly.
Also support open source models.
Exactly. Okay, so after you did that, you can play the code block 25. And this one should take some time. Yes. Yes. And you have a dialogue. You have actually a dialogue. So it will take let's see if it goes. But if you hit play and wait, because it will think some. Well, yeah. Yeah. Yours was faster. But when the photo appears, well, you can read from yours, or if it's finished also on mine, it will show. It's kind of funny because this dialogue is like completely AI generated. What you said is just you are Kamala Harris at the election debate and accordingly, and the same for Trump. And you have goal and task. So task is what you do to achieve your goal. So task what did Donald Trump use Kamala style of communication. And goal is to make Democrats to win the election because it's an election debate. So actually now you have to be a dialogue. Yeah, there are different because they have like different style. Let me see what
What was the temperature? Did you put 0? Also, an important parameter for models is you want if you want to have more variable results, you can there's a parameter called temperature, and you can if you temperature it's more random in generation, so it can be more creative, but also it makes mistakes. And
Kamala is Llama 3.2,
uh,
and Trump. Let me see what was.
this is kind of funny use case, but real use case is that you want to solve something. A typical use case if like one is researcher, another is criticist. So like you actually simulate the team of real humans, but because every agent has different instructions, one is better in, for example, brainstorming, another is better in criticizing. And you can have like multidisciplinary teams, and there were actually it's tested in many papers that with using these fake personalities, you can get better results on benchmarks than and in real life than if you just ask ChatGPT as one connection. So this is like one of the patterns. And here we just show that it's pretty easy to make them exchange phrases, but you can actually where if you know basic Python, you can. And in the future, I know that like I think even Microsoft will integrate agents without programming to their Office 360. So like in half a year, you will actually be able, if you use this cloud thing, you will be able to have several agents without writing code. So usually things appear in code first, and then people make user interface for
found it.
Something like DeFi.
I'm not sure, but it's called DeFi, decentralized finance, or what it means DeFi.
Building models without the need to program.
Yeah. I mean, saturated solutions like in Microsoft, I think they are releasing it with it's a collab for Office 360 for corporate partners now, and then half a year it will be like for regular people. And if you look internally in most of this like advanced, like for example, cursor code editor for programming or some other things, you typically have internally they run multiple agents that talk with each other. And another use case is not only that they have different instructions, but also because if one model is explained too many like databases, it will confuse things. Like a person would confuse which database to use. But you can have, it's actually very valuable for bioinformatics that you can just say, you know how to deal, for example, with genomics, you know how to deal with transcriptomics, and you are like a manager and you decide who you would talk to. And in such case, it will just ask different agents depending on the question. And then it also can have a critic to check if there are mistakes and ask them to redo it and so on.
Well, it can help you like in human process if you compare it. These debates can be like brainstorming. We get everyone in, okay, tell me, what ideas do you have for this product this month? And they start putting up ideas, either stupid or not, but they discuss. And you can have only this part. And as a human, suggestion number 3 was better than suggestion number 10. I don't know. But you don't have to like strain your brain, because we all know when you're like in the morning without your coffee and you want ideas at 8 in the morning now after not sleeping. So you can use it like that. You can also use it for summarizing, because well, lots of people like hate we had a meeting, now we have to summarize all this text, what someone said, what were the key points, what was discussed. You can also use it for that. You can have teams, but you can follow, because these prompts, as you've seen previously, they're sent like logs, if you want to call them. So you can follow what each said. You can, okay, let's take out the text file. Oh, look, the reply from that was this one. So in the end, we decided that's because that happened. So,
and they also have ability human in the loop. That means actually they, for example, if they want to know, like, for example, you are using some agents to plan like a trip to an aging conference, and you didn't say like which days are good for you, which don't. Like, for example, what time of flight is good or what price. It can actually make a decision to ask you as a human a question that is they think that they need human input.
Yeah, you can put them like prioritize my schedule, and you want to go to whatever conference.
Or actually, they can just make their own. If they start brainstorming, they can actually make their own idea. Okay, he forgot to tell us what are their priorities. Maybe I should ask the user if he or she has any priorities. Or we found like some cheap flight, but it's in like we actually came and if the flight was 6 a.m. Will like a person would be okay not to sleep. And you cannot like predict such things in advance. And in my case, actually, I almost didn't sleep.
What is exchanges free? What are the free exchanges?
Well, the free exchanges is actually put because we are using Grok, and they have like a limit of tokens you can have on the same query. So
per minute, actually.
Yeah, they have a limit. So they're not thinking you're overusing their services for paid, because obviously when it's automated, there are lots of queries. You have a limit. It's not a problem that your key expires or anything. I tried once to put like 10 or 5. I was like, okay, I want to read a novel now. But it didn't work. You can do it in separate session, but then you wouldn't have, you'd have to separately store the memory of the previous session. So it wouldn't know from the.
I think it's kind of, we are kind of getting it slower because maybe of slow internet. So we actually planned to show you that how you can actually make it work with aging database, like to check like what's extended lives. So I'm not sure that we have, Didier, how much time do we have?
Or we don't.
Yeah, normally it was supposed to be from 10 to 12, but since we have 2 hours to eat, so we can go.
Okay.
If nobody has a problem, we can.
Yeah. So we
We
plan
can
to
go for 1 hour more. Except that I would propose to take 2 minutes for a coffee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
maybe we can maybe you can reboot your PC because it's kind of slow,
I would not reboot it.
or we can
but-
switch to mine actually.
There,
Because
Yeah,
it's
we
because
can switch to yours.
And
And please prepare some keys. I
possible.
have a fee to have.
But I would.
I mean, leave
I
me
will
an
ask for the food count as well.
environment file, please.
Yeah, maybe you stop sharing and I will share it.
Okay, I'm stop sharing.
He did it. He did it.
But actually, I am impressed that you managed to get through it.
They're not good with battery. I was astonished that he was in getting all this stuff.
Oh.
Because I'm not even on, the
Okay, I managed to stop the sharing. I forgot to take the cooler, but I thought it's cool enough. I wouldn't have issues.
And we forgot to Okay, so we make 5 minutes break in case if somebody is there.
Just
Nino,
try
can you-
to- Ah, yeah, no, there is the mic.
Can you hear me now? Okay, okay, good.
But, and with the mic?
Is it louder now? Or more clear? Can you let us know? Okay, perfect, thank you.
And at the moment, there is no.
We can try it
No,
on.
it's,
There's no echo, so it's fine.
okay, yeah, there is no echo. Okay, I will just write, yeah, here.
Here I can hear you well. Sorry, I totally lost my voice. I don't know if you can hear me.
Will start.
Okay, can you hear me?
Again. Somebody speaking? Okay. Okay. Just to know, no, Nino, you can hear me, I think. Yeah? Can you tell me why not, if it is not working? Oh, la, la. Ah, no, but she's not.
Vijay, can I say something?
Nino is not anymore online, or she's online? No, she's not online at the moment. I don't know why. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Nino, just tell us if you can hear us. Yeah, of course, if you cannot hear us, you can. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Can you hear me
So
can you hear me?
just I put this for you here. So no, not working. Why not? Okay, so just at the moment I stopped the audio just I stopped the audio, so you will not hear anything. Nino and the others who are there, yeah, probably it will start again at 1, but certainly at 2 p.m. CET.